We've cut every cost. We've worked every angle. If this deal falls through, everything we've spent 16 years building is gone.
Rain tapped softly against the floor-to-ceiling windows of the executive boardroom on the 34th floor of Westbridge Technologies, overlooking the glittering skyline of Chicago, Illinois. No one spoke. 12 board members sat frozen around a polished walnut table worth more than the average American family earned in a year. Outside, the wind whipped across the Chicago River, but inside the room, the silence felt even colder. At the head of the table stood Ethan Carter, 42 years old, founder and CEO of one of Chicago's fastest rising software companies. His tailored navy suit was flawless. His shoes shined like mirrors. To everyone watching, he looked like a man completely in control. Only Ethan knew the truth. If today's meeting ended badly, Westbridge Technologies would be bankrupt before Friday. 300 employees would lose their jobs. The company he had spent 16 years building would disappear. His phone vibrated. A message from his chief financial officer. Payroll due in 72 hours. Bank won't extend the credit line. Benson Capital is our last chance. Ethan slowly locked the screen. He didn't allow anyone to see the fear in his eyes. A secretary stepped into the room. Mr. Carter, the investors from Benson Capital will be at your home this evening. They've declined the restaurant. They prefer to meet your family. Ethan forced a smile. Thank you. But inside, his stomach tightened. The meeting was over. The real test would begin tonight. The screen faded to black. 3 days earlier, morning sunlight filtered through the maple trees lining the peaceful streets of Lincoln Park, one of Chicago's oldest neighborhoods. Children rode bicycles to school. A golden retriever chased a tennis ball across a front lawn. The aroma of fresh coffee drifted from a nearby cafe as neighbors greeted one another by name. Halfway down a quiet street stood a modest red brick home. Nothing about it looked extraordinary, but inside, it held 40 years of memories. In the kitchen, Margaret Carter gently removed a homemade apple pie from the oven. The sweet smell of cinnamon filled the room. She smiled to herself, just like William liked it. She glanced toward a framed photograph sitting beside a vase of fresh flowers. A smiling man in work boots stood beside a much younger Margaret. Between them, a little boy with messy brown hair grinned while holding a toy airplane. Margaret touched the frame with her fingertips. "Good morning, sweetheart," she whispered to the photograph. "I hope I'm doing as well as you would have." She wasn't speaking to the little boy. She was speaking to her late husband. Every morning for the past 14 years, she had done exactly the same thing. She reached for her Bible, read a single verse, slipped William's wedding ring back into the small velvet box she kept beside it, and quietly bowed her head. "Help me love Ethan the way you always helped us love him." Only then did she begin her day. A knock sounded at the back door. Margaret opened it with a warm smile. Standing there was 8-year-old Lily Hernandez, holding an empty plate. "Mrs. Carter, my mom said a thank you for dinner yesterday." Margaret laughed softly. "Tell your mother she's welcome anytime." She disappeared into the kitchen and returned carrying 2 slices of warm apple pie wrapped carefully in foil. "One for you," she winked, "and one that your mother will probably pretend she doesn't want." Lily giggled. She always does. As a little girl skipped down the sidewalk, Margaret called after her. "Don't forget your math test." "I won't." Across the street, old Mr. Dawson waved from his porch. "Morning, Maggie." "Morning, Frank. You still baking enough to feed the whole neighborhood?" Margaret laughed. Somebody has to. People smile whenever they saw her. She remembered birthdays. She delivered soup when someone was sick. She volunteered twice a week at the community kitchen near St. Michael's Church. Most people on the street simply called her Mrs. Carter. Upstairs, an alarm blared. Ethan reached across the nightstand and silenced it without opening his eyes. His laptop was still open. Financial reports covered the screen. He had fallen asleep working again. He checked the time. 6:15 a.m. 4 hours of sleep. Better than yesterday. His phone rang almost immediately. Richard, the voice on the other end, didn't bother with greetings. "The Benson partners loved your presentation, but they're worried." Ethan closed his eyes. Worried about what? They've invested in brilliant CEOs before. Some built companies. Some built disasters. They want to see who you are when you're not in a boardroom. They're coming to your house tonight. The call ended. Ethan stared at the ceiling. Everything depended on tonight. He walked downstairs, loosening his tie as Margaret placed scrambled eggs, toast, fresh fruit, and coffee on the kitchen table. Without saying a word, she slid his favorite mug toward him, the one with faded blue letters that read, "World's Best Son." It had been a Father's Day gift. From Ethan to William. Years after William died, Margaret couldn't bear to throw it away. Ethan smiled faintly. "You're still using this old thing?" Margaret poured his coffee. "It still holds coffee, so I don't see the problem." For the first time that morning, he laughed, a real laugh. "You always did know how to win an argument." She smiled. "I learned from your father." For a few precious moments, they were simply mother and son again. No deadlines, no investors, no pressure, just breakfast. Margaret noticed the dark circles beneath his eyes. "You worked all night." "I'm fiending." "Ethan, you said I'm fine every morning this week." He looked away. "I have 300 employees depending on me. If I fail, they lose everything." Margaret reached across the table and gently rested her hand on his. "Your father used to tell me something whenever life became overwhelming." Ethan looked up. "What?" He'd say, "Never become so busy building a successful life that you forget to build a good one." For a moment, the kitchen fell silent. Ethan stared into his coffee. He remembered his father saying those exact words when he was 12 years old. Back then, he hadn't understood them. Now, he wasn't sure he wanted to. His phone buzzed again. Another message from the bank. Final notice. He slipped the phone back into his pocket before Margaret could see it. Then he stood. "I've got to go." She walked him to the front door, straightened his tie the way she had when he was a little boy, and kissed his forehead. "You'll do great today." He hugged her, briefly. "I love you, Mom. I love you more." He walked toward his car. Halfway down the path, he turned back. Margaret was still standing on the porch, smiling and waving exactly as she had every morning since he started kindergarten. He smiled back, then drove away. Neither of them knew that before the sun set over Chicago, a single decision would test everything William Carter had spent a lifetime teaching his son. The morning passed in a blur. From his office overlooking downtown Chicago, Ethan Carter moved from one meeting to the next, barely taking a sip of the coffee that had gone cold hours earlier. His chief financial officer, Melissa Grant, entered carrying another stack of reports. "You need to see these." Ethan rubbed his tired eyes. "Please tell me one of them is good news." Melissa managed a weak smile. "I wish I could." She laid the reports across his desk. "Our cash reserves are almost gone." She pointed to another page. "If Benson Capital walks away." She couldn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. Both of them already knew. Westbridge Technologies wouldn't survive another week. Ethan leaned back in his chair. 300 employees, 300 families, mortgages, college tuition, medical bills. Every decision he made no longer affected just him. It affected hundreds of lives. Melissa quietly spoke again. "I've met Richard Benson before. He isn't only investing in software, he's investing in the person leading it." Ethan nodded slowly. "I know." She hesitated. "Then let them see the real you." Those words stayed with him long after she left the office. Across town, Margaret had spent the afternoon exactly the way she always did on Tuesdays. She served lunch at the community kitchen near St. Michael's Church. She laughed with the volunteers. She packed extra meals for 2 elderly veterans who could no longer leave their apartments. Before leaving, she slipped a grocery gift card into the handbag of a young widow without saying a word. She never wanted anyone to know. Kindness, she believed, wasn't meant to be announced. As she walked home beneath the towering trees of Lincoln Park, her phone rang. "Ethan," his voice sounded hurried. "Mom, the investors are coming to the house at 7. I need everything to be perfect." She smiled. "It will be. I've already made your favorite apple pie." There was a long silence. Then Ethan quietly said, "Thank you." By late afternoon, luxury furniture filled the Carter home. Fresh flowers had replaced the old ones. A professional catering company carried trays through the dining room. Margaret looked around in amazement. So much food. Ethan glanced at the catering staff. "I don't want anything to go wrong." She smiled gently. "It won't." Then she carried her apple pie toward the kitchen. One of the caterers looked confused. "Sir, should we serve that?" Ethan looked at the homemade pie. For a moment, he remembered being 8 years old, standing on a chair beside his mother, sprinkling cinnamon across the crust while his father pretended to steal pieces of apple. He almost smiled. "Yes, My mother made it. Margaret looked at him proudly. Your father always said no bakery could compete with family. Ethan chuckled softly. He wasn't wrong. For one beautiful moment, everything felt normal again. At exactly 7 o'clock, 3 black SUVs pulled into the driveway. Richard Benson
Welcome,
stepped
Richard.
out first.
Thank you.
Behind him came 4 senior partners, 2 attorneys, and 1 woman in her early 60s carrying nothing but a small notebook. Richard smiled warmly. Ethan, thank you for inviting us into your home. My pleasure. As everyone entered, Richard paused in front of William Carter's photograph hanging near the staircase. He studied it for several seconds. Is this your father? Ethan nodded. He passed away 14 years ago. Richard smiled respectfully. He looks like a man who worked with his hands. He did. What did he do? He was in construction. Richard nodded. Those are the people who built this country. Margaret overheard the conversation from the kitchen. A quiet smile crossed her face. Dinner began with laughter. Richard asked thoughtful questions. Not about software, about people. What kind of culture have you built? What makes employees stay? What do you hope people say about your company 20 years from now? Ethan answered honestly. I want Westbridge to be a place where people feel valued. Richard smiled. I like that answer. The atmosphere relaxed. Everyone laughed. Even Ethan, for the first time in weeks. He believed everything might work out. Then, Margaret entered carrying the apple pie. The sweet aroma of cinnamon filled the room. Several guests smiled. Richard laughed. My grandmother used to bake pies exactly like that. Margaret placed it carefully on the table. I hope it brings back good memories. It already has. The room grew warmer, more personal, more human. Then, one of the younger investment partners looked toward Ethan. He smiled casually. So, which one of these lucky ladies is your mother? Time stopped. Ethan looked toward Margaret. She smiled at him. The same smile she'd worn on his first day of school. The same smile she'd worn at his college graduation. The same smile she'd worn the day he became CEO. She wasn't nervous. She was proud. His phone vibrated. He glanced down. A message from Melissa. Bank refusing another extension. This meeting decides everything. His heart pounded. He looked back at the investors. Their expensive suits. Their expectant faces. Then at his mother's simple cardigan. Her flour-dusted apron. The worn gardening gloves she had forgotten to remove. A voice inside him whispered, "Tell the truth." Another whispered louder, "If they think you're small, they'll never trust you with millions." His throat tightened. Margaret's eyes never left his. She trusted him completely. Then, he smiled. A smile that never reached his eyes. "No,"
She's our housekeeper.
he said quietly. "Margaret has helped our family for years. She's practically part of the family." Silence. The younger investor laughed. "Oh, so she's your housekeeper." Ethan felt something break inside him. But instead of correcting the lie, he nodded. "Yes." No one noticed the fork slipping from Margaret's trembling hand. It struck the hardwood floor with a soft metallic sound. Every conversation stopped. She bent slowly to pick it up. Richard Benson stood immediately. "Please, I've got it." He handed the fork back to her. For the briefest moment, their eyes met. Richard saw tears she was desperately trying to hide. He didn't say a word, but he understood. Margaret forced a smile. "I am sorry. My hands aren't as steady as they used to be." She quietly walked back toward the kitchen. This time, no one stopped her. Inside the kitchen, she placed both hands on the counter. Her breathing became uneven, not because she was angry, because her heart was breaking. She whispered to herself, "It's only one lie." Then another thought followed. "No, it's the lie he chose." She looked toward William's old photograph, now hanging alone in the hallway. "If you were here, I think you'd know what to say." A single tear rolled down her cheek. She wiped it away before anyone could see. Back in the dining room, the conversation continued, but Richard Benson wasn't listening anymore. He watched Ethan, then glanced toward the empty kitchen doorway. A question had settled in his mind. Not whether Ethan could run a company, but whether he truly understood what leadership meant. When dinner ended, Richard thanked everyone politely. As he reached the front door, he turned to Ethan. "This has been," he paused, "a very revealing evening." Ethan smiled, believing it was a compliment. "It certainly has." Richard extended his hand. "We'll be in touch." The SUVs disappeared into the Chicago night. The house fell silent. The silence felt heavier than any argument. Ethan closed the door. He took a deep breath. "We did it." He turned toward the kitchen. "Mom." No answer. He walked in. Margaret was standing by the sink, carefully washing the dessert plates as if nothing had happened. Without turning around, she spoke softly.
When did you
"Ethan,
stop being proud
when did you
to
stop
call
being
me your
proud to
mother?"
call me your mother?" He opened his mouth, but no words came. The front door closed with a soft click. For several seconds, neither Ethan nor Margaret moved. The laughter that had filled the house only minutes earlier had vanished, leaving behind a silence so heavy it seemed to settle over every room. Margaret continued rinsing the dessert plates beneath warm running water. She handled each one carefully, as though nothing unusual had happened. Ethan loosened his tie. "I'm sorry." The words sounded weak the moment they left his mouth. Margaret gently dried another plate before answering. "Are you sorry because you hurt me?" She placed the plate into the cabinet. "Or because they might have believed you?" Ethan swallowed hard. It wasn't like that. She slowly turned around. For the first time that night, there were tears in her eyes, but her voice never rose. "When your father was alive, he used to tell you something every Sunday before church." Ethan looked down. He already knew what she was going to say. "Never trade your character for an opportunity." She nodded. "You remembered." "I did." "Then why did you forget?" The question lingered between them. Ethan had no answer. He walked into the living room. William Carter's photograph still hung beside the fireplace. Without thinking, Ethan stopped in front of it. He stared at his father's smiling face. Memories flooded back. A younger William teaching him to ride a bicycle in Lincoln Park. William showing him how to shake someone's hand properly. William saying, "People may forget what you build, but they'll never forget how you treated them." Ethan closed his eyes. "I know, Dad," he whispered. "I know." Behind him, Margaret quietly climbed the stairs. She didn't say another word. Some hurts are too deep for arguments. The next morning, rain covered downtown Chicago. Inside Westbridge Technologies, the atmosphere had changed. Employees who usually greeted Ethan with smiles now exchanged worried glances. Melissa Grant hurried into his office. "Ethan, we've got a problem." He looked up. "What now?" "Benson Capital. They've canceled today's due
Ethan,
diligence
they
meeting."
pulled out.
His heart
The
sank.
investment is
"What?"
gone.
Melissa handed him an email. There was only one sentence. "We have decided not to move forward with our investment. No explanation. No negotiation. Nothing." Ethan immediately dialed Richard Benson. Straight to voicemail. He tried again. Nothing. A third time. Still nothing. He slowly lowered the phone. 16 years. Balanced on one decision. Meanwhile, Margaret sat on a city bus heading toward Chicago's financial district. She wore the same gray coat, the same comfortable shoes, the same quiet smile she always carried. No one looked at her twice. To the passengers around her, she was simply another grandmother running errands. She stepped off near LaSalle Street, where towering financial buildings stretched toward the cloudy sky. She stopped before an elegant limestone building with polished brass doors. The sign read, "Pierce and Hawthorne Trust Attorneys." Margaret stood there for several moments, almost as if gathering courage. Then she walked inside. The young receptionist smiled politely. "Good morning. How may I help you?" "I'm here to see Jonathan Pierce." "I am sorry. Do you have an appointment?" Margaret reached into her handbag. She didn't remove documents. She didn't remove money. She placed an old silver pocket watch on the reception desk. The receptionist frowned. It looked ordinary, except for one small engraving. "Vutse." Curious, she carried it into the private office. Less than 20 seconds later, the office door swung open. An elderly gentleman in a dark navy suit hurried into the lobby. The moment he saw Margaret, his face softened. "Mrs. Carter." He removed his glasses. "It's good to see you again." Margaret smiled gently. "I wish it were under happier circumstances." Jonathan Pierce looked in her eyes. He understood immediately. It happened. She nodded. "Yes." For a brief moment, neither of them spoke. Then Jonathan quietly said, "I was hoping your husband had been wrong." "So was I." He personally escorted her upstairs. The receptionist watched in stunned silence. She had worked there for 6 years. She had never once seen Jonathan Pierce greet anyone himself. Back at Westbridge, the board of directors had called an emergency meeting. One director leaned forward. "Ethan, our lenders are demanding additional guarantees." Another added, "If we can't replace Benson Capital within 72 hours. He didn't finish. Nobody needed him to. Everyone understood. Westbridge was running out of time. Richard Benson sat alone in his own office overlooking Lake Michigan. His executive assistant entered. "You've turned down one of the best software investments this year." Richard remained silent. She looked confused. "May I ask why?" Richard slowly opened his notebook. Inside, he had written only one sentence from the previous evening. "No, she's our housekeeper." He closed the notebook. "My father cleaned office buildings for 30 years. The assistant looked surprised. Richard continued, "My mother worked 2 jobs so I could attend college." He stood and walked toward the window. If a man is ashamed of the people who sacrificed for him, he looked across the Chicago skyline. One day he'll be ashamed of everyone. He paused. "I don't invest in people like that." Late that afternoon, Jonathan Pierce placed a weathered leather box on a conference table inside his office. He didn't open it. Instead, he slid it gently toward Margaret. "It has remained exactly as William instructed." Margaret rested both hands on the box. She smiled sadly. "I prayed Ethan would never give me a reason to unlock it." Jonathan nodded. So did William. Margaret slowly untied the faded leather strap. Before the audience could see what was inside, Jonathan quietly closed the lid again. "Not yet." Margaret looked surprised. Jonathan smiled. "When the time comes, the truth will speak louder than any document." She understood. Sometimes, timing matters as much as truth. That evening, Ethan returned home. The house felt unusually quiet. No smell of fresh coffee. No soft music playing in the kitchen. No apple pie cooling by the window. "Mom!" No answer. He checked the backyard, the garden, the front porch. Nothing. Then he noticed something. The rocking chair beside the window. It was empty. For the first time in 14 years. No one was waiting for him to come home. On the kitchen table lay a folded note. His hands trembled as he opened it. "Ethan, sometimes love must step away. Not because it has stopped loving, but because it hopes distance will help someone find their way home. I'll always be praying for you. Love, Mom." Ethan read it twice. Then a third time. He slowly sat in the same chair where he had eaten breakfast that morning. His eyes drifted toward the faded mug that still read, "World's best son." For the first time, he wasn't sure he deserved it. Just then, his phone rang. Melissa's voice was shaking. "Ethan, the board has called another emergency meeting. You need to get here." "What?" There was a long pause. Then she whispered, "Someone has started buying Westbridge stock." Ethan frowned. "Who?" Melissa answered with 4 words that sent a chill through him. "We don't know yet." The camera slowly pulled away from Ethan, sitting alone in the quiet kitchen. A home once filled with warmth, now echoed with regret. Sleep never came. Ethan sat alone in the kitchen until sunrise. The coffee in front of him had turned cold hours earlier. His mother's handwritten note lay open beside the faded blue mug that still read, "World's best son." He read the note again, then again. Every word seemed heavier than the last. For the first time in years, the house didn't feel too small. It felt painfully empty. Downtown Chicago came alive as thousands of people filled the sidewalks. Inside Westbridge Technologies, employees gathered in small groups, whispering, "The stock price is climbing. Someone keeps buying shares. Do you think another tech company is taking over?" No one knew. The only certainty was that someone was quietly changing the future of the company. At 9 o'clock sharp, the emergency board meeting began. Every director was present. Every company attorney. Every senior executive. Jonathan Pierce quietly took a seat near the end of the table. Ethan immediately recognized him. "I've seen you before." Jonathan smiled politely. "I imagine you have. I've known your family much longer than you've known me." Before Ethan could ask another question, the chairman stood. "Ladies and gentlemen, we'll now welcome the representative of the new majority shareholder." The doors slowly opened. Margaret Carter entered. She wasn't dressed like a billionaire. No expensive jewelry. No designer suit. Just the same gray coat. The same gentle smile. And the same quiet dignity. Several directors looked confused. One whispered, "Isn't she?" Another nodded slowly. "Yes." Ethan stood. "Mom." She looked at him with the same loving eyes she'd looked at him with his entire life. Only this time, there was sadness behind them. Not anger. Sadness. Jonathan rose to his feet. He placed a weathered leather box on the table. The room fell silent. He carefully opened it. Inside were yellow documents, tied together with a faded blue ribbon. Jonathan looked around the room. 23 years ago, 3 young software engineers had a dream. They had talent. They had ideas. What they didn't have was someone willing to believe in them. He removed the first document. One man did. He held up an old photograph. A younger William Carter stood smiling beside 3 nervous young programmers inside a tiny rented warehouse. Jonathan continued. William Carter wasn't wealthy. He wasn't famous. He was a construction foreman who believed that character mattered as much as talent. He invested nearly every dollar he and Margaret had saved. Several directors exchanged astonished glances. Jonathan smiled. When people told him he was risking everything, he answered with one sentence. He unfolded a handwritten note. If you never believe in good people, don't expect good people to believe in you. The room was completely still. Jonathan continued. As Westbridge grew, William never sold his shares. Not one. Before his death, he placed them into an irrevocable family trust. He looked toward Margaret, but he left one final instruction. Jonathan unfolded another letter. His voice softened. If our son ever becomes the kind of man who values success above integrity, don't rescue his company. Rescue his heart. Silence. Not a single person moved. Ethan stared at the letter. His father had written those words years before, as though he somehow knew this day would come. Jonathan closed the letter. When Benson Capital withdrew its investment, the trust quietly began purchasing additional shares from frightened investors. He slid the final document across the table. As of this morning, the William Carter Family Trust legally owns 62% of Westbridge Technologies. The chairman reviewed the papers. Everything was authentic. Every signature, every transfer, every purchase. He slowly looked up. The documents are valid. For several long seconds, the room remained absolutely silent. Ethan slowly walked toward his mother. His voice barely rose above a whisper. You knew. All these years. Margaret nodded. Your father wanted you to build your own success. I honored that promise. A tear rolled down Ethan's face. And I repaid you by pretending you were my mother. Margaret gently took his hands. I've already forgiven you. I forgave you before you asked. He shook his head. I don't deserve that. No. She smiled through tears. None of us deserve love. That's why it's a gift. Several people quietly wiped away tears. Even Richard Benson, who had entered moments earlier at Jonathan's invitation, lowered his head. He had invested in dozens of companies, but he had never witnessed a board meeting like this. Margaret turned toward the directors. I didn't come here to take revenge. She looked back at Ethan. I came to keep a promise. She slid one final envelope across the table. Inside was a new employment agreement. Ethan Carter, I'd like you to remain Chief Executive Officer. The room erupted in surprise. Ethan looked stunned. Why? Because this company still needs the man your father believed you could become. She paused. But there will be conditions. You'll spend the next 6 months working 1 week in every department. Reception, customer support, maintenance, the warehouse, the cafeteria. You'll learn every name. You'll know every family. And every Friday evening, she smiled gently. You'll come home for dinner. No excuses, no meetings, no investors. Just your mother. By now, there wasn't a dry eye in the room. 6 months later, Westbridge Technologies had become one of the most respected companies in Chicago. Not because profits had doubled, although they had. Not because investors returned, although they did. People wanted to work there because they felt seen, respected, valued. Every new employee learned the same company motto. The words were engraved in the lobby beneath William Carter's photograph. Character is the greatest investment you'll ever make. One Sunday morning, the Carter kitchen smelled of fresh coffee and warm apple pie, exactly as it had in episode 1. Margaret stood at the stove, making breakfast. Ethan quietly entered. This time, he didn't rush. He didn't answer emails. He didn't even bring his phone. Instead, he walked over to the wall. William Carter's photograph hung exactly where it had always belonged. Beneath it, a family photograph had returned to its place. He smiled, then walked to his mother. Without saying a word, he wrapped his arms around her. The little boy she once carried had finally come home. She kissed his forehead the way she had every morning before school. You'll be late for breakfast. He laughed through tears. I've kept you waiting long enough. They sat together. For a moment, neither of them spoke. They didn't need to. Some conversations happen without words. Ethan reached for the faded blue mug. He smiled. "I think Dad will be proud of us." Margaret looked toward William's photograph, then softly answered, "No, he'd be proud of the man you've decided to become." Outside, children laughed as they rode bicycles down the same quiet street. Neighbors waved as they passed the Carter home. Life had returned to normal, but one thing had changed forever. Ethan finally understood. The greatest inheritance his father left him was never hidden inside a trust. It was hidden inside the values he almost threw away. Final message: success may build companies, money may open doors, but the people who stood beside you when you had nothing are worth more than everything you could ever own. Honor them while you still can, because one day you'll wish for just one more breakfast together. Thank you for watching Epic Stories TV, where every story reminds us that the greatest fortunes are found in the people we love. Success may build companies, money may open doors, but love, character, integrity, and family build a life worth remembering. This is Epic Stories TV, where every story reminds us what truly matters.
Thank you for watching. Please subscribe, like, and put down your thoughts in the comments. From Epic Stories TV, we love you.